Hey there, lady. Welcome to week 1 of 4 weeks of Uplift.
Yay!
Woohoo!
It's here.
We are super grateful that you are listening, watching, whatever you're doing. We are really, really excited that you are with us. And we're excited to be doing this because we have to tell you that Uplift is one of our most favorite things in the world.
It is our total favorite.
And we are super sad to say that we cannot be doing it as planned, which as planned was June 4th and 5th in Miami.
Like on the beach.
In
Miami.
The beach.
It was so
like
sweet.
Right on the beach. Like steps from the beach.
I know.
Okay, enough of that.
Another time.
There will be another time.
You will join us on another occasion.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. We do have drinks just
We do.
for you.
Yeah.
If you're
Cheers if you're playing along at home.
Take a sip.
You might be watching this at 10 in the morning, so.
But we're drinking for you. Cheers to you. So since we can't be doing Uplift in Miami, we're coming straight to your ears or your eyes or however you are taking this in. We're using technology. Look at us.
Yeah. We're at Jenna's house right now.
Exactly.
That's where we are.
Yeah, in the studio.
We're going to post a picture of how this actually looks because it's pretty funny.
We're like business up top. Fun business up top with very unmatching situations happening down here and flip-flops. But, it's just like Zoom. You're like, you pay attention up here and it doesn't matter what happens down below. Yeah. So what we do want to share with you is what we had intended with Uplift. And our very first Uplift in 2019 was in Phoenix. And it was 2 days of, the theme was magical. The buzzword was magical. It was 2 days of really just amazing women coming together, sharing everything about where they are, where they want to be, where they see themselves, what success looks like. We talked, of course, about some critical work skills. And we really did have this, it was exactly what we hoped it would be, which was time to really come together, to think big, to escape a little bit, and to retreat, and to have a retreat.
Yeah, and to think on our own terms.
Yeah.
Right? We were really focused on that because for Jenna and myself and for most of the women that we know and that we coach, it is very easy to reach for the brass ring, to get the A, to perform, to need and want and present a particular image. And we really wanted to give everyone an opportunity to dig down a little deeper and think about, but what matters to me, regardless of what all that other stuff is supposed to look like, right? And so we really did a lot of that at last year in Phoenix, and we took a lot of time to do some big planning.
Yes.
And so we really wanted to help everybody once they figured out, like, what do I really want? Who am I right now? Who do I want to be? What do I need to do to get there? And then we really looked at, okay, so what does that look like in 10 years, in 5 years, in 3, in 1, in the next 90 days? And then we dug in, and it was really hard work. Yeah. Everybody was like, my brain is breaking. But it was so great because everybody left with incredibly detailed, actionable plans that made sure that the 90 days in front of them aligned with the 5 and the 10-year goals, which is hard to do.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, Nancy, because I saw this thing that said, so everybody who was asked in 2015, where do you want to be in 5 years? Everyone was wrong. Right? Like, where will you be in 2020? Not what we expected.
Sometimes the best laid plans.
It's so true.
Yes.
It's so true. But I do think thinking about where you want to be in those terms, in that context, right? Which is more about what do you really want? And I loved how you said it it's not just about getting an A, right? It's not just about like climbing the ladder because you think you're supposed to. It's not just success for what other people think success looks like. It's your version of success. And I think that, and when we can be all back together, which will happen, and we will have Uplift 2021.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Yeah, somewhere beautiful where we can, so let's cheers to that. Hold on.
Here's to Uplift 2021 when we can all like hug each other again.
Oh, man.
Because what in the world, you guys, ladies,
you lady. Yeah, it's not fair that hugging is supposed to be a thing.
Hugging should be a thing.
We should be hugging. Mm-hmm. But we wanted to at least do this kind of version of Uplift. We wanted to, not only do we honestly desperately need it for our own selves, right? Because this moment, I have never felt more connected in weird ways and disconnected in so many other ways. And Uplift was always really our dream of bringing together like-minded women, ambitious women, to talk about these kinds of things. And so we're so grateful that you are here with us listening and taking part in this, because we still want to create that community of Uplift. Mm-hmm. And just because we can't be together doesn't mean that we can't, hop on Zoom.
Because everybody loves Zoom.
Exactly.
I want to hop onto the ambition thing, though, for just a second, because I do think, going back to the A thing, right? It's easy to want the title, but not want the job. And I think a lot of us don't think that through all the way. So we go. We want that next promotion. We get it. And then we're sitting in that job and we're like, dang, this isn't quite what I had in mind. Yeah. And so part of this is just adding that extra level of self-awareness to being able to think through, okay, but what do I really want for me? What do I want my days to be like? What are my strengths? How could I live most of my life working in ways that I'm really suited to and I'm really good at? Right. Yeah. And so we're going to explore a lot of that in these next 4 weeks together. And in 2021, we'll do even more of it
in person. Mm-hmm. But for now, we did want to give you a little exercise. So this is kind of what you can expect every week, right? We want to at least give you some, thoughts to think, some questions to answer. Because I will say, if you're feeling anything like me, I have been searching for some inspiration and creativity, and it has been hard. It has been super hard. And I have felt these, I wouldn't say high highs, because I think like I've lost complete track of time. So I couldn't even tell you. Relative. I couldn't tell you when I was like, woohoo, way up here. I don't know if that totally existed, but I've been having these kinds of big dips, where I just kind of feel low. And I've been looking for some ways to try to get a little bit more inspired. And I also sort of recognized that was the whole goal of Uplift. And I think I was pretty sad that it wasn't happening. And so then looking at how could we create a few, days, weeks, a month of some uplift, we know that it would help us too. And so that's why we're here. And we just know that Uplift is for us all about joy. It is the thing that brings us massive, bubbly, happy, sparkly, huge joy. And so we wanted to help you think about that too, and think about what brings you joy. So Nancy, guide us through the exercise
I would love
that we're about to do.
Thank you, Jenna. So this exercise came to me on or around a New Year's Eve a couple years ago. And I am super geeky about New Year's Eve. I flippin' love that time of year. I love to plan. So I'm seeing this entire Uplift month as basically New Year's and gym. That's how I'm seeing it. Because I feel like we all do, as Jenna said, we've all been in this weird, crazy either doldrum or up and down roller coaster insanity for a while. And so it's an amazing time to do a little bit of a reset. both internally and kind of in our external lives. So,
but now I'm going to think that it's January 1st. So now because I don't ever know what date it is or what. So I'm like, oh, it's New Year. Nancy
January
said it was
1.
New Year's. So it's totally party. January. Yeah.
Yes. So you might be hungover.
Right. Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Okay. Yeah. So we would love for you to not see this as homework, but to see it as this amazing opportunity to look at your life in a whole new way. For real. So what we would love for you to do is to really think about the last time that you felt joy, that bubbly, effervescent, you can't even handle how happy you are kind of joy, right? Now, we have been in quarantine for a while. So that version of joy might have been a minute ago. Yeah. So we're going to give you permission to explore another few feelings, right? So there's the bubbly, crazy joy, but equally a calm contentment, right? Or a happiness, the giddy kind of happiness that you have when your dog comes running up to you and is acting ridiculous and makes you happy, or where your kid does something totally adorable that totally charms you, or the really peaceful, chill, calm kind of happy, right? So anything in the neighborhood of those feelings, what we would love for you to do is to actually get a pencil and paper, or, a crayon and construction paper, or whatever you've got handy, and really write down, and we're gonna confine it to the time that you've actually been working from home. So the last 8 or 10 weeks. Normally we would ask you to go back an entire year, but because we've just been through a really strange thing together, we're feeling like this is a great opportunity in the midst of that crazy to look at, okay, even then, what brings you joy? What makes you happy? What makes you feel a little giddy? What makes you feel chill and calm and happy, right? So write down 10 times in the last 8 to 10 weeks that you had feelings in that neighborhood, okay? And here's what we'd love you to do, is to write down when the feeling happened, where you were, who you were with, and literally, almost in words, paint a picture of it. How did it smell when it happened? What were you listening to? What could you hear? What were you looking at? Was it bright? Was it dark? Draw yourself a picture so that you can really go back to that moment and really almost feel it again, okay? Because not only is that just really pleasant to do and a good practice in general, but then when you get done with your whole list and you've got your 10, and by the way, the first 5 might be easy and then it might get a little harder. Stay with it. Go all the way to 10, because I promise you, you did have 10, even though if you get to number 3 and you think there's no way. I've been at home for a really long time.
You had me at when was that moment? And I was like, oh,
I know.
I had to think about what the actual date was. I have no idea.
But get 10, write 10 down. And then when you have finished and you have your beautiful list in front of you and you've had an opportunity to relive those moments a little bit, take a second and look back and see what you can kind of draw a line through. Were the same people frequently present? Did you tend to be outdoors when these things were happening? Was it typically nighttime or early morning? Are there any common factors, right? What you're looking for is what constitutes joy for you? What really makes you happy? And when I did this for the first time, I would have definitely defined myself, and everyone in my family and, my close friends would have defined me as a workaholic. I'm not saying they wouldn't still, but I have changed my practices somewhat.
True confessions with Nancy Jackson.
I mean, we are who we are. But then it really was very bad. At one point I had started a nonprofit. If I was awake, I was working. I felt this sense of mission. And then I did this exercise and I looked back, and none of the 10 times, not one of them, was at work.
Yep.
Like, give that a second. None of that happened at work. And so I was spending
You should not be addicted to things that do not actually make you happy.
And so it was this amazing kind of, oh my gosh, moment where I thought, I'm spending all my time and so much of my energy on something that is not making my life worthwhile. I gotta rethink this. And so then the next step, once you have your list, you've experienced your moments, you've kind of made some common elements where you really see, oh, I'm happiest when, right? Then what you want to do is seriously sit down with your calendar and think about, how can I schedule more of that in my life for the next, you pick the period. Is it 90 days? Is it a year? Whatever it is, I implore you.
Yeah.
This makes such a difference in the way that you approach your life. And we've just been talking about, in this weird moment, one of the things that's so hard is we don't have all that much to look forward to because so many plans got canceled. And so the other thing I would love to encourage you to think about is, very often when we do this kind of exercise, what we see is, oh, it's when we're camping, it's when we're hiking, it's when we're on vacation with our best friends, it's right. And this has been a weird moment and we don't know what all is coming. And so what I would love for you to do is to really think about, what are all the things that could create more joy, happiness, peace, contentment in your life, just kind of right where you are. Right? And how can you schedule that in?
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
I think it's
so hard.
I think that this is it's the most important part though, because we've been talking about this, the future focus of people who tend to be planners and ambitious and driven, and it makes it really tough because you aren't as in control as you would like to believe. And so
that's an understatement. I've been at home for so long.
So I do think it is hard I think that when I think about this, of course, those moments of joy were vacations because it was my escape. And it was like, I get to go and be away in a beautiful place and feel small and just present, like fully there, and not have to worry about all the other stuff, about the plans, right? The plans are being executed. I am relaxing. Commence relaxation.
That's very insightful, Jenna.
But I do think that this moment, and this is so weird to think about, like talking about this in the context of before, I'm sorry, I'm going to say the C word. I hate the C word, but I'm going to say it, before COVID. So BC. That's what we're going to say from now on. So we don't have to say the C word. BC. And currently we are in CE, which is, the COVID era. That's where we are. We're there now. So BC and CE. So BC was all like,
go, go, go.
Yeah. Like, we'll make those plans.
But we'll loose,
do
fancy
that thing.
free.
CE
A little different.
Is different. And I think this is so important to think about joy in CE, because this moment has taught us that the best laid plans, right? And so being where you are and being able to think about what joy really looks like when you can only be where you are in this space. I can't wait to hear what you say.
We have some of ours. We're very excited to hear yours.
Yes. Yeah.
And the cool thing is, because we're humans and we adapt, which is one of the really nice things about us. And everybody's doing really cool, fun things. Like, everyone is. Yeah.
I think amidst the annoying pain of feeling
and isolation.
Totally. That there is all of this. Like, I do feel like right now, finally, there are these bubbles of oh, but this part has been nice and this part has been nice, and these silver linings that are kind of popping up, and this merging of personal and professional, which is so much of what we talked about at UPLIFT in person, UPLIFT BC. And now it's actually happening. Like, it's been forced into play, which is crazy. And so what we wanted to do was to try to learn as much as we could from this moment, and to really take forward some of the very best of what is happening.
And to give the most mundane example, I have always, my entire life, I have always spent too much money eating out. Always. Yeah. I mean, since I was a teenager, like when I worked as a teenager, I spent all my money on going out. But that's not weird for a teenager, but it is a little weird when you're an adult.
I like it too.
And so I know.
I like restaurants.
And believe me, I as soon as a restaurant is safely open that has outdoor seating, I'm in. Mm-hmm. I definitely want to go back to that. And I don't want to do as much of it as I used to.
Yeah.
You know, both for budget reasons, because I've suddenly realized I can live on a ridiculously small sum of money, which is fantastic. But also, my daughter Kate and I have had so much fun cooking together and doing dishes together. Just, I mean, mundane, silly things that when you're in a hurry and you're focused all over the place, it seems more festive to go out, also faster. And, you know.
Yeah.
But it's actually not faster.
No,
it's not faster, and it's definitely not more fun. That's the weird part, is that I would tell myself, I need a minute to relax and be served and have somebody hand me a drink. Well, now she's all into being a bartender, so she hands me a much more delicious drink. Best thing about quarantine, by the way. Kate's bartending.
That's so awesome.
For sure. But that has become so much more fun and much more relaxing and satisfying in 100 ways. So I don't think we're going back to what we were doing. I'm excited to go to restaurants again, but it is a change, and we have gotten closer and more bonded because of it.
Yeah.
It's kind of sweet.
Yeah, I do think too, just about being here, being here
home
in my house, which we happen to have a studio in, which is lucky. But also in Lawrence, Kansas, which is not exactly where I thought I would be.
Oh, come on, Jenna.
So I have the moments where I'm like, oh, the mountains are calling. And that is like,
she's probably going to move. The result of COVID is that she's headed to Colorado.
I just have John Denver songs in my head every day, all day, where I'm like, oh, right. Since I'm not in the mountains and I'm doing obviously less planning, to be in the mountains. I mean, the good news is you can still go to the mountains, and like the mountains aren't closed, which is really nice. But also I realized that I have never been here in my house in Lawrence, Kansas in spring for this long. Ever.
Neither.
I have had a job traveling this entire time that we've been here. And so the fact that we just turned the air conditioning on, I was like, this is the longest spring on the planet. Like, I've actually been able to sit outside, which I've lamented about Kansas forever, because I was like, oh, we never get a chance to sit outside. There's mosquitoes, but it's been 2.5 months of, when it's not raining, being able to sit outside, which on my joy list, right? Like on things where I'm like, how can I get outside? It's there. And so that has been really, really nice to be able.
So it's almost like rediscovering home.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is a whole other, I'd love to talk more about.
Pretty great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And does lead to another little topic, which is just gratitude. And we've talked about this on the podcast a bunch. So you may have heard us on this topic, but really, I mean, look, research demonstrates conclusively that the most important thing you can do for your own happiness is to cultivate gratitude, right? So we know this. Oprah tells us this. Marty Seligman tells us this. Daniel Goleman tells us this. Like
Sean Acor
tells us this. Everybody tells us this.
Yeah.
It's a truth, right? And I do think, I mean, for both Jenna and I, just kind of training your brain to see the positive is incredibly powerful. And so for myself, for the last couple years, I've kept a gratitude journal. And I just, when I get up in the morning, I just jot down every single thing I can think of. And sometimes the list is 3 things. It's like coffee, bed, dog. Man, that's enough.
That's all I have to say.
That's all I've got today. That's all I can reach for. But then some days, oh my gosh, I've got a whole page full of things. And those are the best days because your brain is reaching for not just the usual, not just the in front of you. Mm-hmm. And it's a super powerful, powerful practice. So that is another thing that we would love for you to begin to do every single time that you think about it. Because once you start doing it, you start noticing all the things that you're grateful for as they happen. And that is a beautiful thing in terms of just adding to the joy in our lives.
It is so nice. I think that, what is that? Is there an actual principle about the red Toyota?
Yeah, confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like when you know that you want, I don't know why, red Toyota. Let's say a red Toyota truck.
For example,
that's what you want. And you're like, you've been researching it and you've been thinking about buying it. And then all of a sudden you notice all of the red Toyota trucks out in the world. It's the same thing with gratitude. When you are noticing the happy things, like the things that fill you up, that make you feel grateful, then you notice them more.
Right. And it's the same. Awesome. It is really awesome. And it's the same thing as that confirmation bias. What your brain does is that when it sees you, like it does a job for you. You've done the research. And so you've decided, I'm buying the red Toyota truck. So then your brain is like, honey, that was a good decision. That's right. You were right.
Confirming. I am confirming.
Look at all the red Toyota trucks.
You're biased.
Everyone has them. They all have them.
Right.
Right? Yes. And so the same thing goes, and it's triply cool with gratitude, right? Because you do the research, you're like, this thing and this thing and that thing, I'm grateful for these things. And so then your brain not only starts looking to confirm the bias for all the other things that you're grateful for, it also decides that you are a grateful person, which
is nice.
Is really nice.
It's real nice.
Grateful people are happier.
Yeah, and it's especially nice when in CE if you've experienced this at all I think for me the kind of, it's not so much that I am angry that I can't do a thing, even though that is a huge part of it. It's because that's control, right? It's like the world is telling me I can't do something, even though the world isn't. I'm choosing to be a responsible person and not do things exactly. But it is there. It just, I recognized early on, I read some article about, how we're all grieving we're grieving BC.
What was.
Right. Yeah. We're all, and so recognizing that process and just feeling those feelings, which again, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that we've been dealing with this for a long time. Yeah. Feelings is a whole, frustrating.
Getting better.
Yeah. But we're totally getting better. And this moment has actually, amplified that. And I would say helped to get better because the feelings have to be felt. And there is no point at this moment in acting like everything's going to be okay, because it actually is what it is. Right. And so being in the moment, seeing the joy, seeing what you are grateful for so that more of it can come your way, I think is the only thing that takes me out of those really kind of dark, low moments.
Yeah. Because when you're down there, most of the time it's because you're resisting it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And just like, why can't I hug somebody? Why can't I make a plan? Why can't I just do this?
I just want to go to a restaurant, dang it.
Right.
And so it's when you're resisting what is, you're bummed. And when you just accept it and feel grateful for what you can, but also, and this is our last little nugget that has been super helpful to both of us, even BC.
Yes.
But certainly CE. Oh my goodness. is just...
Which I am reaching for right now.
Jenna just reached for a drink. But what we're going to say is reach for a better thought.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is a drink.
Sometimes. It really is.
I think.
I do think we should make t-shirts that say reach
for a better thought. Man,
yeah.
Reach for a better thought. Because here's the thing. We know this, but we forget it. We tend to think that we think on purpose and therefore our thoughts are true. But we don't think on purpose. And for anybody who's ever tried to meditate, you know this. Because you're sitting there and your thoughts are just racing and none of them are anything that you ordered. You didn't say, okay, brain.
Like, where did that come from?
Right.
Stop it.
It's just go away.
Yeah.
And so one of the most important, best things that we can do is to simply acknowledge, observe the thought that we're having. And if it's not a good thought, and by the way, more than 78% of the thoughts that we think, not only we've thought before, but are negative.
That blows my mind.
Oh.
I want to say it one more time. That 78% of the thoughts that we think we've already thought before and are mostly negative.
Boo to that. So let's not do that anymore. Let's just know.
78%.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so literally I got to the point where I would be taking the dog for a walk and the thought pops in and be like, nope, not today. I'm reaching for a better thought. And here's the crazy thing. It actually works.
Yeah.
It really does. You can simply decide what to think. You can say no to that dumb thought that you've had a lot of times that wasn't accurate in the first place and it totally doesn't apply anymore.
Yes.
You can be like, no to you.
So I had
better.
Can I tell you, first of all, I love the image of actually reaching for a better thought because when it comes into my head, I had this crazy moment. So I was sitting in the Dillon's, our grocery store parking lot. And because I'm now ordering my groceries online and then just doing the curbside pickup, which is such a great thing.
Like, why didn't we always do this?
So, however, at this particular moment, it was taking a really long time. And I called them a couple times and I was like, hey, been here for about 40 minutes.
Oh
just wondered if I should come back later. So I had some time. And I had a scrap piece of paper in the car and a pen. And I was just giving myself a moment in the car to think instead of listening to whatever distracts me. And I actually was writing down the better thought. So I was writing down the bad thought and then I was writing the opposite of that thought, which sounds crazy, but it was so what if that isn't actually the truth? What if it's actually this? What if I'm not actually this kind of a person? I'm this kind of a person. Or what if the thing I said didn't really mean this, it meant the positive version of that, just trying to actually reach for a better thought. And when I was writing it out, I felt calmer. The very first one I wrote made me feel calmer and better and just more positive and happier. And I do think that there is something magical in there of retooling, and just saying, nope, not today, not today. And then even the act of writing it out, I felt took it, to the extreme where it was wow, actually have a list of the bad thought and the opposite of that thought. It was why can't I reach for that thought? I totally can. In the Dillon's parking lot. Look at me.
You just do it all by yourself, wherever
Exactly.
you are. Byron Katie has a great version of that where she asks you to write down a bunch of things that we'll maybe send you notes about now that I've thought about it. But she has a great practice where when you have that thought that is the negative thought, you actually turn it on its head. You state the exact opposite of it. And then you ask yourself, is that at least as true? And you guys, almost all the time it is. Almost all the time, the full opposite of the thought that you had. So that's one way to do it that's super easy, where you turn it all around and you're like, well, that is actually just as true. Why wouldn't I think that? An engineer that I just got done reading his book, Mo Gaudat, wrote a book called Solving for Happiness, which I highly recommend. And one of the things that he says is, if there are two thoughts, if there are two possibilities, and neither is conclusively provable, which I am this kind of person isn't provable, right?
Not a fact.
Right. If they're not provable, then by scientific method, you can choose either one. So why not choose the more positive? Right? Like,
yeah,
we just always should. We just always should. And we do get to choose what we think. And as soon as we start doing that in a decisive, repetitive kind of way, literally our mind does actually change, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big deal. It's a really big deal, especially when we are a little bit confined and there's so much we don't have control over.
Right.
The one thing we do have control over, the one thing that we totally have control over is what we think.
Yeah.
And so if you take that control, you will feel better.
Man, we hope that just doing the joy exercise, some gratitude, reaching for better thoughts this week, we cannot wait to hear how this works for you, how you're feeling about it, what brings you joy, what you're grateful for. We are super grateful for you. So thank you so much for being with us, however you're with us.
And we will see you soon.
Yeah. Oh, cheers. Oh. Cheers to you.